Kagurabachi has a really cool and fun power system. Most importantly though, I think it helps that the author does a great job of showcasing the different sorceries and powers clashing in its fight scenes, the way the characters use their abilities, the timing they choose to use it, the variety, how it's executed. It's what makes the action sequences very fun to read in my opinion. While it's still an early and developing system, we've also seen quite a lot in the span of 35 chapters. So today, I would like to explain the foundation and basics to the powers of Kagurabachi, talk about spirit energy, sorcery, enchanted blades, etc. Then the second part of the video will be me specifically going over all of Chihiro's abilities, including his 3 most infamous attacks, Kuro, Nishiki, and Aka. This is my first Kagurabachi video on the channel, planning to make more, so yeah, hope you stick around. Okay, just like how chakra is in Naruto, cursed energy in Jujutsu Kaisen, spirit energy, or Genryoku, is the main power source in Kagurabachi's world. Spirit energy is described to be the life force within human beings, something that we all have, and that life force can be trained, controlled, for the person to eventually use and learn sorcery. Just like Shiba stated in chapter 4, since everyone has spirit energy, technically anyone in the world can use sorcery. They just have to work like a maniac to grasp it. Now, what does that exactly mean? Well, in chapter 32, Chihiro says that one first needs a strong body in order to use sorcery. Take someone like Hakuri, for example. When he was first introduced, Hakuri was shown to be a weakling who couldn't use his family's signature technique. However, Shiba said that Hakuri had the potential for using sorcery because he was able to survive a full-blown attack from Hiyuki's flame bone, a feat that would have killed any other regular civilian. So surviving her lethal attack proves that Hakuri's body is strong. Therefore, he already had the preparations ready to achieve sorcery, just needed the mental confidence and a strong will to finalize it. Another benefit to mastering and controlling your spirit energy is that it can greatly amplify your physical capabilities, such as gaining superhuman-like mobility and a heightened defensive aptness. This explains how Chihiro could run on walls, jump a multiple-story building, and just move faster than the average human in general. Beyond that though, spirit energy can be used to manipulate mystical supernatural powers, otherwise known as sorcery. Within 35 chapters, we've already seen many different types of sorcery, including exploding dolls, a form of teleportation, psychological induction, tree generation, body enlargement. There's a ton out there. There's also different levels or tiers in the sorcery you can have. For example, Tefuku sorcery is very different and more nuanced compared to others because he has the ability to create this metaphysical space outside the real world, like having his own domain expansion where only Tefuku can choose who gets to appear in his domain and who gets to be left out. He normally uses this to allow Hiyuki, his partner, to fight her opponent without getting the crowd involved. It's very similar to Kyora's storehouse sorcery, a subspace that extends infinitely and doesn't exist in the real world either. So this would mean that there's certain and specific categories of sorcery. Tefuku's and Kyora's would be like the spatial/dimension type. We've also seen different body transformation types, and there's a traversal type with Shiba's teleportation and the Hishaku leader's teleportation. And last but not least, there could be more categories, but there's the standard emission type sorcery like the exploding Daruma dolls, Iso shockwave, earth manipulation, etc. Now, I mentioned earlier that anyone can learn sorcery, and while that is true, it also seems like some of it is hereditary. The Sazanami clan, for example, all of Kyora's children can use the Iso ability because Iso is said to be passed down through the Sazanami family. So it's possible that one's genes can impact their capability to learn certain sorcery types. With all that being said, weapons can also be infused with sorcery as well. Hiyuki's Flamebone of the Starving is a good example of one, as according to Chihiro, Flamebone's spirit energy is immense. Shiba even said that her Flamebone is similar to the Enchanted Blades, as it has powers beyond regular sorcery. Now, what does that even mean? The Enchanted Blades are considered to be one of the best sorcery a person could ever have. Weapons so powerful that it was the leading factor for ending the Seiti War 18 years ago. There's not much known about the Seiti War yet, so I can't get into it, but what we do know is that Chihiro's father, Kunishige Rokihira, was the talented blacksmith who created these weapons, and thus why he's remarked as a hero for the impact his role played in winning the war. In total, there are 7 known enchanted blades in the series, technically 6 currently existing with the Cloud Gauger on the verge of breaking, but each of these blades carry 3 main abilities imbued within them. They even follow the same theme. For example, an enchanted blade called the Cloud Gauger has 3 abilities related to the topic of clouds. The first ability is called Mei, which unleashes lightning. The second ability is called Yui, which releases ice, and the third ability is called Ko, which releases water. Lightning, ice, water, all 3 things that relate to clouds. But the reason why the enchanted blades are more special than any other weapons or tools that have sorcery infused is because of the way it interacts with spirit energy. Not only does wielding an enchanted blade amplify the spirit energy within a person, but it amplifies way too much spirit energy to the point where it can no longer be contained in the user's body. Consequently, the massive portion of energy manifests into the real world and takes the shape of different forms depending on the wielder, something like a giant goldfish, for example. The secret behind enchanted blades possessing a lot of spirit energy is because they are made with a Datenseki, a special rare ore that was found during the Seiti War. If a human were to touch a Datenseki and flow their spirit energy inside of the ore, their spirit energy would multiply, thus leading to an overflow of energy, causing their bodies to explode. However, Kunishige Rokihira was the first person in history to stabilize the powerful ore and craft it into 7 katanas that we now know of today as the Enchanted Blades. Before getting into one of them, named Enten, Chihiro's main form of weaponry, I do want to elaborate more on the Datenseki because it not only contains an overabundant amount of spirit energy, but it also seems to integrate with the wielder's soul/willpower. Quote, yes, according to my father, the Datenseki is a power beyond the theoretical. I don't mean it's a power almighty or something, but the change in how the wielder uses the sword, the fortification of their body, the power of their will, something unclear is influencing it and summoning powers unforeseen when the sword was forged, end quote. So this is when it's first vaguely brought up in the story that the wielder of an enchanted blade can deeply connect with their sword via synchronizing their thoughts, convictions, desires to it, etc. And through this, let's call it an awakening, they can find new maneuvers or create new abilities that weren't originally designed from the blade's start. For example, and there's 2 examples I can think of so far, the first one being when Sojo cloaked himself with Cloud Gauger's lightning attack, Mei. Cloaking yourself with Mei's lightning wasn't something that Sojo could do before, and it wasn't something that was even known to do with the abilities of Cloud Gauger. This is something that Sojo created himself, and when he first performed this feat, it felt like he had a deep connection and a true understanding with his enchanted blade. Thus, when he told Chihiro about it, he explained it like, the more I used it, the more I was able to harmonize with the Cloud Gauger. Chihiro also experienced an evolved moment with his enchanted blade, but we'll talk about that later, as now it's time to dive into his specific abilities. As I mentioned earlier, Chihiro's main weapon is the 7th and last enchanted blade called Enten. Just like Cloud Gauger, Enten has 3 main techniques that follow the same theme. 3 goldfish. Yeah, it's not as obvious as the cloud from Cloud Gauger's lightning, ice, and water combo, but it correlates. You see, Enten is based on the 3 goldfish that Kunishige bought when Chihiro was younger. The black goldfish represents warding off evil, the red goldfish attracts good fortune, and the 3 colored goldfish is supposed to be totally amazing, in Kunishige's words. So it's the description of these goldfishes that represent the 3 powers of Enten, starting with Kuro, the black goldfish. This technique releases a ranged slash attack, warding off any evil that comes in front of Chihiro's way. These slashes are significantly more powerful than regular sword slashes because Kuro cuts with spirit energy itself. To express how powerful that is, we see in the first chapter that a cut with spirit energy could sever the torsos of multiple low-class swordsmen. He usually uses Kuro as his opening or final move in fights. In addition, Chihiro created an extended extension technique called Kuro Shred. As we talked about earlier with Enchanted Blades evolving with the user, this move was made after Enten resonated with Chihiro's instincts. Thus, Chihiro's harmonization and understanding with his blade had accelerated further, growing the true realm of Enten. Shred is basically just a miniature version of Kuro, where instead of manifesting the one regular giant goldfish for one big and powerful slash, Chihiro summons up to 20 small black goldfish and uses them to unleash up to 20 smaller flying slashes. Shred uses the same amount of spirit energy as a regular Kuro, but trades its power output for the ability to release many compact and rapid slashes. That being said, even if the output is weaker than a big Kuro slash, Chihiro can group up his 20 mini slashes onto one person, and that would cut them as if it was a single slash of a regular Kuro. It's honestly a really smart compensation because doing smaller slashes like this lessens the physical burden and energy onto Chihiro's injured body. The second ability from Enten is called Aka, represented by the red goldfish, described by Chihiro's father to attract good fortune. And that's kind of in line with how Aka works, but instead of like pure attraction, Aka more so absorbs attacks, which could then allow Chihiro to release the absorbed attack back at the enemy. This is a pretty powerful technique, although it does depend on how much spirit energy the attack has, because, for example, when Chihiro absorbs the Daruma guy's explosions here, none of the explosions landed on Chihiro. All of it got fully absorbed by Aka, but then when Chihiro fights Hiyuki, Aka couldn't fully absorb the attack of Hiyuki's flame bone since it had an immense amount of spirit energy. Though a cool feat from Aka is when Chihiro absorbed Sojo's lightning. I don't know if a lot of people caught on to this because the author never shows Chihiro saying Aka, but when Sojo was charging up to release his high-powered Mei onto the city, in this small panel, we can actually see Chihiro absorbing a portion of the lightning from the tip of his blade, and thanks to Aka, that's when Chihiro was able to become the lightning rod, attracting Sojo's lightning. So while it's not a complete damage negation, depending on the spirit energy amount, it's still a pretty powerful technique because releasing Aka can surprise his opponents the first time, and it acts like a perfect counterattack. The third and last technique from Enten is called Nishiki, the three-colored goldfish. You can think of Nishiki as kind of the opposite to Kuro, where Kuro sends a slash of spirit energy outside. Nishiki takes that spirit energy and cloaks it around Chihiro's body. By wearing this cloak of enormous spirit energy, Chihiro's stats get boosted to a very high degree. His regular close range slashes become more powerful, not as powerful as a flying and ranged Kuro attack, since that's a separate and condensed power of spirit energy. But for example, let's say there were 10 bodyguards in front of Chihiro. A regular Kuro could cut those 10 bodyguards in one swing, whereas Nishiki, on the other hand, while it's gonna require Chihiro to come close to those 10 bodyguards in order to stab them with his blade, since Nishiki greatly amplifies Chihiro's speed and strength anyways, those 10 bodyguards would probably get blitzed and finished around the same time it took for a single Kuro slash to cut those bodyguards as well. Does that make sense? Of course, the ultimate move is when Chihiro unleashes both a Nishiki and Kuro in the same sequence, amplifying his physicals while being able to release a ranged slash attack. Keep in mind, Chihiro's base speed has already been shown to blitz a few enemies before, so with Nishiki amplifying his speed even further, a single cloak of Nishiki should be somewhere just below or around the speed of lightning, and when he uses Nishiki at 3 times the rate that his body would allow, Chihiro should be faster than twice the speed of lightning, which is the fastest he's ever been. I'll go more into that scaling and how strong Chihiro is in a separate video instead, since this was just a basic explanation covering the series' power system. But so if you want to see a Chihiro focused video and how strong he is, then be sure to let me know down in the comments. I do appreciate you tuning into my first Kagurabachi video. Hopefully this helped some of you, and if you want to see more Kagurabachi content, then definitely stick around, as this will be a series I plan to cover often in the future. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.